The Great Southwest Walk, a 250-kilometre snapshot of Victoria's diverse landscape. A trail specifically designed for walkers which loops you from the visitor centre in Portland, Victoria, inland to Nelson, and then along the coast back to where you started. The trail starts you off with farmland, followed by beautiful forests, rivers, and finally, stunning coastal scenery. Track accessibility. You can start this hike from many access points along the trail. You will find that every campsite is located very close to a road, which a regular vehicle can usually access, so no need for a four-wheel drive in most situations. You can also use this to your advantage to prepare and stow your food parcels. That means you'll greatly reduce the weight in your pack that you need to carry each day. You can also use it as a start and finish point for your weekend trips or day hikes, or even as emergency access points. Because of the accessibility, I strongly recommend this hike for beginners who want to try out a long distance hike or are going out for their very first overnight trip. Which direction? It is suggested on the Great Southwest Walk website and by the Portland Visitor Centre that you do this hike in an anti-clockwise direction, which I would also absolutely recommend as well. I'm unsure of why it's officially recommended to do this hike anti-clockwise, but I'll tell you the reasons why I would recommend doing so. Firstly, if you're a beginner, the trail starts you off easy. It takes you north into the forest on your first day. With minimal elevation gain, clearly marked forest and farmland tracks, closely located campsites, and easy accessibility to roads, it will certainly ease you onto the trail. Secondly, the wind. Whilst I was on the beach sections, which totals approximately 60 kilometres, I was lucky to have a tailwind each day. I don't know if I was lucky or if the wind is consistent and generally comes from the northwest, but it certainly helped to have the tailwind, making the beach section easier and more enjoyable. There is nothing worse than having to fight strong winds all day with sand particles blowing into your eyes. I suggest checking the weather forecast before the hike. If the next week indicates strong wind from the southeast along the coast, then you may want to consider taking the trail clockwise. Remember, if you consider this option, you will be hiking the most challenging parts of the trail first due to the greater elevation gains and sandy beaches. Thirdly, in my opinion, the trail presents some of its most spectacular views towards the end of the trail. Don't get me wrong, the whole trail is stunning and each environment is unique, but looking back on my hike, the trail just kept surprising me, presenting even more amazing scenery each day as I progressed from the forest to river to sandy beaches and onto rugged coastline. Beach versus Mount Richmond. Along the coastal section, you will have the choice of branching off and hiking another day on the beach or going inland to hike over Mount Richmond. If you choose to hike along the coast, you will cut off a day on your hike, but you also miss out on spectacular views from the top of Mount Richmond. On my hike, I took the coastal route, taking on 16 kilometres of extra beach in order to save a day off. But I didn't want to miss out on the Bridgewater Lakes and the Tarragull Caves, so I backtracked along the inland trail where it rejoined back together. This detour only took me an extra hour, which was 1.4 kilometres return. I highly recommend doing it this way if you do want to do the coastal section. It also provides a very nice place to stop and have a late lunch or a snack at the Bridgewater Lakes, and if the weather is hot enough, it makes a perfect location for a swim. The caves can be found not too far up from the lakes if you continue to follow the road, again worth the extra walk. Do I need to train for this trail, and what is the difficulty level of the trail? In answering this question, I'm assuming you are planning to do the full hike or an overnight hike, not day trips. But there is no short answer to this question. Everyone has different physical capabilities. However, I'll try to give you an idea of what to expect from this trail and then give you my opinion on what level of fitness and preparation you should have under your belt before commencing this hike. Again, this is just my personal opinion. I'm no fitness expert, just someone who is just making a logical recommendation from previous experiences. There is approximately 4.5 kilometers of elevation to climb on this hike if you take the route via Mount Richmond. This also means there's 4.5 kilometers of downhills. So 4.5 kilometers may sound like a lot, Try to imagine this distance vertically, looking up into the sky at an object standing 4.5 kilometers tall. Unfortunately, no man-made structure actually exists at that height. The tallest structure on this planet only stands at 828 meters. If you've hiked the Overland Track maybe and summited Mount Ossa, it would be equivalent of summiting that 10 times over. Now this may sound like a challenge, especially if you're walking with a pack on, right? Well, time for the good news. Most of the elevation variation is from gradual undulation of the trail. Most of this trail is relatively flat and you will hardly notice the ups and downs, but this all adds up to the elevation figures. There are some parts on the trail that goes over hills only steep enough to increase your heart rate a bit if maintaining your pace. And then you have some steep sections. Some feel more almost vertical, but thankfully on this trail they are not common and they are short. You won't find many of these climbs on the first half of the trail, but you certainly will on the second half, and by the second half I mean the coastal section. So in conclusion, a majority of this trail is flat or traverses over small hills, with the occasional steep climb. You'll find most of the steep climbs come with man-made steps. I don't really recall any times I had to rock scramble. So what fitness level would I recommend you to be at before taking on this hike? Well, again, it depends on what direction you are going to hike. If you're going clockwise and so hitting the major elevation gains and steep climbs first, then I would recommend you doing some training leading up to the hike. If you are going anti-clockwise, you should be fine with no training, provided you're not going with a ridiculously heavy pack for your body size. However, whichever way you choose to go, I would suggest you test your own abilities to see where you are at. Just note, if you're already physically active, hike regularly, or play sports regularly, you may already have a really good idea of your fitness level, and you can make your own plan, or you may not even need one at all. To test your hiking fitness level, I would suggest that you find a trail around 10 kilometers long in your local area. Put on your hiking shoes, grab a loaded pack, and hike it to see how you feel at the end of it. Try and pick one that has similar elevation gain to a day on the Great Southwest Walk, so approximately 300 meters elevation gain and loss. Do this well before you start your hike. I would suggest perhaps a month beforehand. So do this hike, assess and see how you feel during and after. If you're very tired, back sore, or feet are in a lot of pain, then you've got some training to do. You may also want to consider equipment adjustments as well, such as lightening your pack or getting new shoes. For more information on this topic, there is a plethora of information on YouTube on various pack setups, along with videos I've made on here on my channel. Logistics. Getting to the trailhead is very easy. It is right in the middle of Portland at the Visitor Centre. You can leave your car there for free. The staff at the Visitor Centre recommend that I park in front of the security cameras along the dock area, immediately in front of the Visitor Centre and to the left as you walk out. I would suggest letting the staff at the Visitor Centre know it is your vehicle and that you are hiking the Great Southwest Walk. At the same time, they'll probably suggest to you that you fill out an official document for VicPol in the event that you do not return as per your itinerary. If you choose to fill out this voluntary form, be ready with your itinerary, which will include your campsite that you'll be at and what date that will be on. And have your emergency contact details ready as well. They told me they would raise the alarm if I was a day or two overdue, and they also said if I returned after hours, they'll notice that my car has gone, and they'll know that means I have returned from my hike as well. There are other ways to get to Portland if you're not travelling by car. So if you're flying in, it would be best to fly into Melbourne Airport, and from there you can catch a train to Warrnambool and transfer onto a bus to Portland via the V-Line train and coach service. They state it takes 5.5 hours to complete this trip, and their timetable and more information can be found at www.visitportland.com.au. Just scroll to the bottom of the webpage and click the public transport link. I then booked my accommodation through booking.com. I found that the information was accurate for the motel I stayed at, and would highly recommend it to anyone who's staying in Portland with a car, because it's actually not too close to the trailhead. There is other closer accommodation options. If you want to look at that accommodation, I'll put it below in the description. Now, I do have to add, you have to book your sites in advance along the trail. These come in at about $5.60 at the moment, but I've noticed that they go up and down depending on what time of the year you book in. And this is, I guess, so that it doesn't become overcrowded on trail. But this does cause a bit of a problem if you don't know how quickly you're going to hike. Like me, I booked in 13 days worth of huts, and I hiked the whole trail in 10, which meant I wasn't at the right hut at the right night, which thankfully wasn't a problem because I only encountered one other person on the trail. But if you're hiking in prime hiking season, this could be a problem, and it may not be welcomed by Parks Victoria. I did call in advance and check that it was okay if I didn't stick to my itinerary, and the guys at the visitor centre, it wouldn't be a problem. But I did notice at the Mallee camp there are tent platforms, and I think if there's more than about 8 people, you won't actually have room to pitch your tent. Resupply. As I mentioned before, the trail is super accessible, so if you want, you can stash your resupply boxes near the campsites before starting your hike, provided that you have access to a car. If you do this, ensure it is in an animal-proof container, so at least sealed with in a box or a container made of hard plastic. What I chose to do is carry supplies to get me from Portland to Nelson and then back to Portland again. I accounted for 7 days of food to get there and 6 days to return. The Nelson Visitor Centre is more than happy to hold onto your resupply boxes and has great opening hours, which are from 10 a.m. to 12:30 p.m. and from 1:30 p.m. to 5 p.m. every day. They are very friendly and helpful to hikers, and were happy to arrange to bring in my supply box that I left in their front door, as I had to very early departure the next morning. I found doing this certainly was the easiest method of resupply. I would not recommend relying on buying your food in the town, as their grocery store was closed when I arrived and opened late in the morning. There is a service station in town, which is where I also arranged a room to stay in. They are also attached to a motel right next door, but there is next to no supplies for a hiker in that service station. That afternoon, I got coins from the service station and walked another, K or 2 down the road to the Kaiwong Caravan Park to do my washing. Unfortunately, there is nowhere else in town to do your laundry, but please note the time the local pub, which also has accommodation, was shut for renovations when I hiked through. So there is a possibility they could do laundry. They also do meals and have accommodation. So if this is open, I would book in there. The BP service station is a good backup, however. I did not book in advance, and the accommodation had only one other person staying there overnight, and appeared to be around 8 rooms available in total. But I did hike in the winter months, so this may be busy during the summer. So now that the planning side of things is complete, I feel that that's enough information for you to make your mind up is if this is a hike for you, and so you can get out there and start your hike. If any of you have any questions about this hike or any topic I didn't cover, please put it in the comments below. I can either make another video covering that, or I'll reply to your comment. If you enjoyed it, please hit the like button. Or if you found anything useful, please hit the like button and subscribe if you want to hear more videos from me.